Hello, it's Amy from Little Car Lifestyle, and I'm here in Quartzsite, Arizona. It's tough to find a quiet spot in Quartzsite right now because it's near the beginning of their big tent RV show, and my goodness, the roads are clogged. It's amazing. Traffic is something like a big city traffic jam during rush hour right now. And I'm sure that the people who are just traveling and passing through weren't prepared for this. But anyway, I did manage to find a relatively quiet spot away from the rumble of semis and everything where I still have a signal. And in case you don't know, I'm living part-time in my little Honda Fit, and I'm focusing on finding affordable beauty in small spaces. So I have done a couple of other videos. I do need to get some about my car up, but right now, since I've been boondocking in the desert, I have found it difficult to do a little editing that I need to do on that video. So that one's going to have to wait till I have a better signal and can actually get up on my laptop. But it's Monday, and I said I would try to release a new video every Monday. So we're going to start off with a defining moment, and I figured this out, folks. So this sign is actually readable for you. See? Woohoo! Defining moments. So today, the word that we're going to talk about is frugality. So what in the world is frugality? Well, frugality is a lack of wastefulness, careful management of material resources, husbandry, nurturing, tending, making things grow. It's also wisely saving, and it's a creative use of resources to make them as useful, inexpensive, and long-lasting as possible. So that's what frugality is. It's not something new. Many people have been in situations where it was absolutely essential that they were frugal, and other people enjoy being frugal, basically seeing how far they can make a dollar stretch. And then some people sort of just make it a lifestyle based on their philosophy or religion, that they're going to try to use less. Sometimes because that in itself is a goal. Sometimes it's to reduce their carbon footprint or their demand upon the planet, and sometimes it's so that they can have more money to share with other people and to give up their expertise or fund someone else's needs. If they live more simply, then someone else can simply live, which was the name of a rather well-known cookbook produced by a Mennonite woman probably in the 70s, I think. Anyway, though, that idea has been around for a long time, and there's a phrase that I've loved ever since I heard it that was put out by the World War II sort of publicity department, and it says, use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. And that's a phrase that I think is so all-encompassing when it comes to frugality. And in our very, I think, prosperous and very disposable society, we've actually lost that idea in many ways. So I want to talk about that for a little while. So the first part of the definition for frugality I gave was a lack of wastefulness. So there are just many ways you can choose not to waste things. One example would be that instead of getting like milk or liquid creamer that you keep in the cooler when you're out in your camper or on the road, you switch to powdered creamer so that you never actually have it go bad on you and just waste it or pour it down the drain. Another idea would be, say you're somewhere where you open a can of chicken, and so maybe you can keep that cool enough if by parking in the shade and everything, but you might have a tendency to use part of it, forget about it, and it ends up in the garbage can. But if you planned your day's meals around it so that maybe you had a chicken like breakfast burrito, and then for lunch you had a sandwich or some chicken on a bagel, and then for dinner you made rice with the chicken, then you'd use the whole can and there wouldn't be any waste. It wouldn't get too hot so that it would be unstable. It wouldn't be forgotten about and turn green somewhere in a corner, and it wouldn't be added to the garbage pile without having nourished somebody. Another thing is you can collect change, for example. Every time you get pennies, quarters, dimes, and everything. You can use them, of course. Quarters are very handy on the road, and you can also make it an easy way to give away and to help somebody else. For example, at McDonald's at the drive-thru, I don't know if you've noticed, and inside they always have boxes where you can put change in to help fund the Ronald McDonald House, which is a charitable organization that helps families when one of the children has an illness, and so parents need to be close at hand. But living out of a hotel, as probably nomads you already know, living out of a hotel is exceedingly expensive and cost prohibitive, and would make it so that parents could not be with their sick children. So Ronald McDonald House provides a place for them to stay and do their laundry and all sorts of things like that. It's a fantastic organization, and maybe you could find some other place where that's done, but that's just a way that you could not waste those pennies and dimes and everything, put them to good use. Also, for example, something simple, which no doubt many of you already do. When you're down to the last part of your shampoo bottle, don't throw it away. Put some water in it, liquefy it, and use that for your last shampoo. Just make a practice of not wasting, doing everything you can to use every last drop. Okay, another part of the frugality definition that I gave you was careful management of material resources. So I just watched the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous virtual meeting on budgeting, and it was very good and enjoyable. It was by a lady named Kim, I believe, and she laughed her way through. It was quite delightful, but she talks about budgeting and how it's really not a sacrifice, it's a tool, it's a plan. I mean, very few of us on the road would take off with no destination at all in mind, because we would not be prepared for where we might need to stay. So if we're going into cold weather, we have to consider where our opportunities lay. And if we're going into hot weather, we have to know if there's a place for us to be. I'm not saying that you can't be free or that you can't make choices, but you need to know where you're spending the night. And it can alleviate anxiety and costs and all sorts of problems if you plan. So a budget is like that. It's like a tool to use to help you know where your money's going, to help you manage it, use it well, put it where it needs to be so you don't spend part of it that you need for something else or lose track of it. Another thing is to keep your money safe. That's another way to be careful with it. And credit cards, from what I've been told, are safer to use when you're out and about because they are more protected as far as someone getting your card and using it and what you would actually be liable for. So check into what are the safest ways for you to carry money and use money while you're moving around, and be wise and careful with that. Also, rotating food, for example, is a way that you can be careful with your material resources. You can get perishable items and eat them first. Then, as your ice liquefies or whatever, if you're in the desert the way I am, or maybe you have run out of charge and you'll need to charge up your batteries before things will get really cold again, then you can move on to canned foods or dried foods or other things. But by doing that and making choices about how you use your food, you avoid wasting, you avoid things spoiling, and so you're managing the money and that resource of food in a careful way. And also, you need to maintain your possessions. That's just another suggestion about careful management of your resources. If you have a rig and you've been driving a long time, or you've been out where it's dusty, for example here, you need to keep tabs on when your oil changes are due. And obviously, before you're going out on a long trip, I always have them do an oil change and do the safety checks and make sure that my tires are inflated correctly, and and things. Follow your maintenance schedules on your solar devices if you have them, on your 12-volt things, on anything you depend upon. Also, keep things clean so that there's less wear and tear on things. Mend little tears. We've all heard that phrase from Benjamin Franklin, a stitch in time saves 9, and it's absolutely true, right? You find a little hole, you mend it, and then you don't have an enormous hole, and you may have prevented having to get rid of that item or replace that item because you maintained it. So that's careful management of your material resources. Another part of the definition is husbandry, which basically means to nurture, to keep it growing and going. So you may grow your own food. I actually saw a website a long time ago, I don't know the name of it, but I'm sure you can find it, where a man is eating a lot of healthy food, and he's actually growing sprouts in his little Prius. So you might find a way to do that. Also, you can have a hobby that serves a purpose. So you can learn to crochet, for example, or knit. And while you're spending time around the campfire or maybe waiting on things or whatever, you can actually be making useful things for yourself, for gifts, or even to sell. You might be able to have like a little business by doing that. Baking might be something that you could do. Obviously, having a hobby of doing your own car maintenance or changing your own oil or tires or whatever is something that will create and take care of your little home on wheels or anywhere else. And then you can do what's preventative. Actually, that's taking care of something and nurturing it, right? Like care for yourself, stretch, try to keep flexible, exercise, especially if you spend a lot of time behind the wheel. It's easy to be sedentary in that sense because there isn't any room, for example, in my little car, to have a treadmill or something, regardless of the weather. You have to plan it, but clean your teeth. That's a simple thing. Your mother would be proud of you if you did that. Quit smoking if you do smoke. So that would save you a lot of money, but it would also save your health. So these are preventative kind of things that you can do. Also, wisely saving is important, and that's part of the definition of frugality. So see if you can find the highest interest or return on your money. There are different sites online like bankrate.com where they will help you find online bank accounts, for example, that are giving the highest interest rate. And while it's nothing to write home about right now, it's certainly better than nothing. So you also might check into CDs or bonds or something that interests you. I'm not an investment person, but I've read a lot about them, and obviously you can find some reputable sites out there. Check some finance gurus like Susie Orman or Dave Ramsey and see what they have to say about how you might actually invest your money. And then you might have assets. You might be able to put some savings into an asset like a building, something that would generate revenue for you. So that would definitely be something to look out for. I'm not giving any financial advice. I'm only giving suggestions as to what might help you save wisely. Also, you can buy the least expensive brand of something that will do the job and do your research. Sometimes things like a Mercedes-Benz actually have more trouble for their new owners, or give them more trouble than a less expensive car, which would surprise you. But if you look those things up, you can find out whether that's true or not, and you can make a better choice about how you're going to save your money and not use it on foolish things. I've got some things here, like I went to the dollar store and I got this little rack for $1. It was a Dollar Tree, so everything there is $1 or less. And I saw, similar racks at Walmart and things like that for, I don't know, maybe $4, $4 to $5. So I saved myself a considerable amount of money by buying something less expensive. I don't really have any reason to believe that this rack is somehow inferior to the racks that I might have gotten to go over my window at Walmart. So that was a way to be wise in my savings. Also, for example, bungee cords was another thing. Bungee cords only came in a packet at Walmart, and I was going to have to spend almost $5 to get a few different lengths of bungee cords. And at the Dollar Tree, I got 3 of them in 3 different lengths for $1, which was great. It was enough for me to start out and to use them. And I've got ones holding, toilet paper rolls and holding a basket to something. So I saved quite a bit of money. And so that's another example of wisely saving. You can also choose ways to generate your own resources, such as using solar power, which of course is becoming quite common, riding a bicycle, walking, all sorts of things like that. Get you something that doesn't cost you anything and therefore saves you money. And it's wise from other points of view, right? I mean, obviously it helps generate power without pollution, and walking or riding could be a great way for exercise, and also produces less as far as, carbon emissions and things like that. So also you can keep up on specials and discounts. Keep track of it, go online, check things like bankrate.com. I think e-insurance lets you get some quotes from different insurance companies, but things are changing. There may be a new internet provider, or there may be a special that they're going to offer you with your own internet provider. If you pay attention and just don't keep chugging along, paying the same thing with blinders on both sides, never checking to see if you can save money, then you won't be wisely saving. So frugality means you put a little time into that. You keep track of it and you see where you can save. Okay, another part of the definition of frugality was creatively using your resources to make them as useful, inexpensive, and long-lasting as possible. So there are a few ways that I'm going to bring up. One is to reuse things. For example, my sister-in-law uses eggshells for her plants. She grinds them up and puts them in her plants to provide some nutrients. And I bought this juice bottle. I bought a set of these because I make homemade apple cider with like sparkling apple cider for the holidays. So I made sure I bought these because they were square. And now they fit together very nicely. I had 2-liter bottles holding water. They fell over. There was a lot of wasted space. But now I have 6 of these that sit into a plastic basin, which of course is useful as well. And that was just by choosing wisely. Now I can reuse that. Okay, also, you can use like drink cups for ice, and that's what I've been doing. I'll buy a drink and then I'll fill it with ice and I'll stick it in my cooler. And so I'm actually reusing that to be my little ice pack in my small cooler. You can recycle things when you get a shirt or it gets a big hole, or maybe you got oil on it and it's no longer presentable. Obviously, you can use it when you need to do your maintenance on your rig, or you can cut it up and make nice, soft rags, things like that. It can move on to something else. And for example, I picked up firewood, which is why my car is sort of in disarray right now. I'm camping with some other women, and by moving some things around, I had space to pick up firewood for us tonight. And they were using banana boxes from the grocery store, and I found out that if I don't want to burn them, I could burn them, and that'd be a way to recycle them because we'd get some energy from them, but I could also take them back and they'll use them again. So that's another way to recycle. My friend on the road, whom I recently met, KT, gave me some fire starters that she made out of cardboard egg cartons and wax, and it used lint, and it's brilliant. You just break one off and put it in the fire. It catches light very quickly. So she's obviously learned how to recycle and use things in different ways. And of course, there's traditional recycling, right? Take your plastic bottles, take whatever you can, your cardboard and paper and everything, to recycle centers or like containers that they have so that they can be made into other things. You can also repurpose things. For example, I was in Walmart before I was going to take this trip, and I was looking at ways to plan. So they had some little boxes. This is just one of them. But the calendars and the planners were selling like hotcakes because this is January of a brand new year. And there were tons of these different shapes and sizes just left there. Well, I like the color, but I also like the shape. I can cover it, with square like scraps of fabric or contact paper or whatever, but this fits really nicely on my dashboard, and so I can lay papers in it or that sort of stuff, and it cost me nothing, and it saved it from just being, you know, thrown away or recycled maybe. I don't know what they do with it, but I found another use for it. Also, I was lamenting the fact that I hadn't bought any sort of very low light to use in the back of my vehicle, but I had brought a couple of flameless candles that were a set that I was given a few years ago before I came on the road, and lo and behold, let's see here if it's going to work for me. There, see the little flame? You can barely see that, can't you, because it's so bright outside, but these are awesome. They look cozy and beautiful, and they get just the light I want when I need to be able to see around, but I'm not quite sure if I'm stealth proof or anything like that, you know, and people can't see. So this didn't cost me anything. I just repurposed something that I already had. I also have been using my winter coat because although it's cold in the evening, it's not cold during the day here in Quartzsite. It gets hot, and I've been using that to wrap it around my cooler as insulation to make my ice last longer. So I've repurposed that. I also want to touch on reduce. And of course, you can do that to be frugal by choosing containers and packaging that's less. So some things have 4 layers, you know, and some are in a simple paper box, and choose the one with less packaging if you can. Also, you can choose something usable. For example, I already showed you my juice bottles, but you might choose, maybe a glass container because you want a vase. So you choose the juice or the tea or the product that comes in, or a wine bottle that comes in the shape that you like, so that when you're done, you can reduce garbage because now you have a vase and you didn't make any garbage. Also, you can obviously bring your own bag or your own box or your own cup when you're going to buy things and reduce waste that way. That's all part of being frugal. And then don't forget, as you do all these things to save money, that you also need to give. We need to give because there are people in need, and because we need to learn to be grateful and not grasping with the things that we own, and because it's a good thing to do. The Bible tells us God is pleased with a cheerful giver. So give away what you can't use, and give away what you don't need anymore. Or maybe you've got food and you don't need it. Also, budget money to help others. It's just the right thing to do, and it feels good too. So when you're being frugal and you're penny pinching, you're stretching the dollar, don't hold on to it so tightly that you don't know how to share anymore. That would be a horrible result of frugality, and certainly nothing that I encourage you to do. You can make it a quest, a challenge, a game, whatever you want, in order to be frugal and to enjoy the process. And of course, having some goals, which is what Kim mentioned in the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous earlier today. Goals for saving or using this money is also something that can be motivating to you. I want to read Proverbs 21:20 for the closing quotation. In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all he has. So choose wisdom and not foolishness, and frugality is a wise way to manage the resources that you have earned and that God's given you. I wish you all well. This is Amy with Little Cars Lifestyle. I hope that you enjoyed this and found it useful. And I will be showing you how I'm going to work to make some of these finds and frugal decisions pretty, so that they're affordable and pleasant to be around and inspiring. If you like what you've seen or you find it interesting, please subscribe to my channel. It's brand new, and I hope that it fills a niche and inspires people and makes them happy. So God bless. Till next time.